Hey guys, what's up? My name is Bharat, you're watching iGyaan, and today we're going to be reviewing Xiaomi's first launch of 2021, which is the Mi 10i. It's barely been a week, but we've had this phone also for about a week, and we wanted to give you our review in this video. To get notifications from iGyaan, make sure to hit that subscribe button with the bell notification icon with all notifications turned on so that you can get notified. So the Mi 10i has been priced at 20,999, which sort of misses it by 100 rupees from becoming the cheapest 5G phone in the country, because the Moto G 5G is priced at 20,900 rupees. So this is more expensive by 99 rupees. But it is a 5G phone, one of the cheapest 5G phones that you can buy today. And with the announcement for 5G for India already underway, should you be looking at buying a phone like this? Let's get into a little more detail about the device, and we'll start off with build quality and design. For starters, the phone has a very impressive build. It's got a really premium look, and if you look at the back of the phone, we've got a dual sort of tone of color, and there's a gradient that sort of moves from this orange to blue. So as the look suggests, the color is called the Pacific Sunrise, and it goes from the ocean to the sun, or the sun to the ocean, however you'd like to look at it. The good thing is that there is Gorilla Glass 5 on the back as well as the front, so you get a good amount of protection. There's also IP52 water and dust resistance, so you'll get a little bit of both. Not the best, clearly, but it basically gives you some level of splash resistance, and obviously it'll protect the device from dust. And it also improves the survival of the device in heavily coastal areas where the humidity levels are really high, means that things like your ports and your headphone jacks will not get destroyed. The bezel of the Mi 10i is very interesting because on the outside it appears to be metal, and if you scratch through it a little bit, you do get a metal coating that's on there. In fact, it's a metal foil that we were able to recover from the edge of the phone. But on the inside is a fibrous sort of material, probably some hybrid fiber plastic compound. It's not a solid plastic, and it's some sort of a fiber. It appears to be very cardboard-like, to be precise, but it's a very soft bezel, and it's very easily scratchable. So quite different from the Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and the back. On the front of the Mi 10i is the display. Now this is a 6.67-inch display, which has a 120 Hz refresh rate and a 2400 by 1080 Full HD Plus resolution. And it has 450 nits of brightness, and it does support HDR10 and also has L1 certifications. So if you're watching any of the streaming apps, you'll be able to watch the content in HDR10 compliant streaming capabilities. The display also supports adaptive sync, so you can watch content in 30 Hz, 48 Hz, 50 Hz, 60 Hz, 90 Hz, or 120 Hz, which is a pretty compatible range. Mostly displays would usually have anywhere from 30 to 60, and then 120, or just 60 and 120. In this scenario, you get a whole range. So depending on what your content is made at, you can watch it in that, so it won't look jittery on the screen. Xiaomi also includes things like Reading Mode 3.0 along with the Sunlight Display 3.0. And because the 450 nit brightness of the display, you get a pretty decent outdoor viewability. Of course, if you're looking at this display in direct sunlight, there may be a little bit of a challenge, but otherwise, it's pretty good for use indoors or outdoors. Viewing angles on the display are good, and color reproduction as well as levels of black are really nice. And there is a good amount of contrast on the display. So whether you're using it in day-to-day activities or just for streaming content or for playing games, in all of those scenarios, the display works out great because of the good amounts of contrast, because of the good amounts of refresh rate. So you get 120 Hz for gaming, and then you also get content consumption capabilities because of that. So the device has a hybrid SIM tray, so you can pop in either 2 SIM cards or 1 SIM card and 1 micro SD card. And this is a 5G device, and it'll support sub-6 5G bands, and that may not be the entire range of 5G bands that will launch in India. So this device may not cover a large spectrum of those bands, but it will be one of the most compatible bands to launch in India. So with respect to usability, when 5G does become available, this may or may not work, because we are not sure on what the 5G spectrum allocation will be like and what bands 5G providers will use. If you do travel to a country that does support sub-6 5G brand and you would like to use your phone with 5G capabilities, the Mi 10i will support that. On the right of the device is the fingerprint sensor, which also doubles up as the power button. And now this is, I think, one of the best places for the fingerprint sensor. It's one of the fastest to unlock. It's easy to register. It's also easy to use with both hands, whether you're holding the phone with the left hand to use the index finger or whether you're holding the phone with the right hand to use the thumb. So on the inside, you get the Qualcomm Snapdragon 750G chipset. This has an octa-core CPU up to 2.2 gigahertz. It's built on the 8 nanometer process, so it's relatively new and it's pretty powerful for the ranking of the chip, and especially at this price bracket, it does deliver up some really impressive performance. You also get the Adreno 619 GPU, and the X52 5G modem is sort of inbuilt onto the chip as well, which is great for improving battery performance as well as 5G performance from the chip. You also get 6GB or 8GB of RAM depending on which variant you choose. Storage remains the same with 128GB, which should be enough for a lot of people. And like I said, you do have the hybrid tray, so you can pop in one micro SD card into one of those slots in case you need an additional amount of storage on your device. But 128GB will be good enough out of the box for a lot of people. So the device ships with MIUI 12 out of the box, or 12.0.3 to be precise. It is a pretty good version of MIUI if you do like MIUI. And we found that even though it was sort of full of unwanted apps, most of them could now be deleted. But you still have the security app and the cleaner app that cannot be removed. Overall, the UI can be cleaned up quite a lot, and most of pre-installed MIUI apps can also be deleted. But still, like I said, certain apps cannot be deleted. So with respect to the user interface, it's actually quite a lot better. And as far as we've had it, we've not seen any ads on the UI as well. So that means that as far as those things are concerned, this seems to be pretty good. But it's still not as good as, say, stock Android. It's still not as good as some of the other ROMs that are available. And if you do plan on buying this device and sort of exploiting the usage capabilities of the phone, I would recommend that you root the sucker and install your own version of some ROM on it, and you will get really impressive performance from it. I'm sure the developer community would be more than excited to build on this, and you will get some version of ROM that fits your needs. MIUI in itself is now, I think, that by far the cleanest on this device. And if they keep heading in this direction, I think they can remove most of the unwanted apps, and this will become a really good usable platform from Xiaomi, because this is truly where they are lacking at this moment. The smartphone is extremely snappy for day-to-day usage, whether you're jumping between applications or just gaming. You get really impressive performance. In fact, we tried a whole host of games and all of them work really well on this device. As far as benchmarks are concerned, we do get equivalent results of what they claimed in their launch. But it's not as good as, say, flagships, but it is pretty impressive what phones in the 20,000 price bracket can do today. And this phone is somewhat of an example of that. The Mi 10i also has stereo speakers, so it uses the main speakerphone along with an elongated earpiece to give you the stereo sound. You get impressive amounts of bass from the built-in speakers. And it's a pretty good sound in itself, and you won't, in most cases, need additional external speakers. Of course, if you need a bigger, better sound, you would need an external speaker. But the fact that you do have pretty impressive speakers out of the box is good. And also you do have a 3.5mm headphone jack, so you can connect headphones if you still use wired headphones, that is. So the Mi 10i has a 4820 milliamp hour battery, and you do get a 33 watt charger inside the box. And the fact that you get a charger is pretty impressive in itself, but the fact that you get a fast charger that can charge up the device to up to 70% in about 30 minutes is good. And that means that you can really use the device to its extent, and you get about 6 hours of heavy use screen on time with this, of course, with a little bit of customizations according to references and everything. But if you boost up the brightness, if you boost up the volume on the speaker, and if you're playing games or something, that screen on time will be considerably lower. So depending on what usage you have and whether you're connected to Wi-Fi or 4G, all of those things will, of course, affect usage capabilities. But for average, you'll get about 5 to 6 hours of usage on this battery. And a good full day of use with this large screen as well, with the 120 Hertz refresh rate, and that is what you're expecting from a phone of this price bracket. Because this device does support fast charging, you can use Xiaomi's new power bank, which does support 22.5 watt fast charging, so you can plug it in directly into the Mi 10i and get at least 22.5 watts of fast charging on the go. And that is a benefit, and that thing costs about 1,000 rupees, so that is a good investment to make. And we'll leave a link to that in case you guys are interested in buying that. The Mi 10i has a quad camera setup on the back. The main camera is what we'd recommend using for most things, and it's a 108 megapixel Samsung HM2 sensor. This is also the first phone in India with that sensor, and this is basically a 27 megapixel sensor with quad pixel binning, all of that magic, and you have a 2 micron pixel size, so that's a pretty big size for the pixels on the sensor, and that yields really good low light performance. And the fact that the f-stop or the aperture is about 1.75, it will also give you really good low light performance. And some of the samples that we took with the camera are pretty impressive, and if you do want that 108 megapixels shot, you can get that as well, but there is really no need for it, so I'd recommend shooting in the standard auto mode with the main sensor for the best results. There's also an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera and a 2 megapixel macro camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. The depth sensor is great for clicking portrait shots, and it'll give you good results. You also have Xiaomi's customized camera app that allows you to change up things after you've clicked the image. So if you click portrait shots, you can replace backgrounds, add clouds even in the background. So all of those things are built into the app, and those are quite useful. But the macro sensor is quite trash, to be quite honest, and that's something that you will not be using. And the main camera does pretty good macro. I would recommend sticking to that, or investing in a good macro lens if you're interested in macro photography. We'll leave a link to the one that we like in the description below. The 8 megapixel camera, which is the ultra wide camera, has a 120 degree field of view, but an f-stop of f2.2, so you'll only be able to use this in really well lit environments if you do want ultra wide shots, and the results from that are pretty impressive as well, as long as the lighting situation is good. As far as video recording is concerned, the phone can shoot 4K 30 FPS. I don't know why they've done that. 4K 60 is more than possible with both the sensor and the chip. But Xiaomi's decided to sort of block it, maybe leave it as a feature for more of their expensive phones, but they've decided to clearly block it on this. It does 1080 at 60 FPS, which is going to be mostly what most people are going to be using. So it does good full HD video recording. You also have inbuilt stabilization, which does crop out your frame quite a little bit from the sensor, not from the actual finished video. So you will get image stabilization in 1080 60, and that is again what mostly you're going to be using. The front camera cannot do 1080 60. In fact, it is limited to 1080 30, and this is where sort of continuity falls apart. If you are, for example, shooting video with your phone and the rear camera, you can go up to 1080 60, but on the front camera you can only go up to 1080 30. So for example, if you decide to vlog with your phone, the maximum capability you'll get from your phone is 1080 30, and in today's day and age, I don't think that's good enough. At least 1080 60 on both the cameras on the front as well as the back would have been nice. Video overall is pretty good for the price bracket that the phone is placed in, and you get good amounts of contrast, and like I said, image stabilization is good, so you can really play around with that. You also get a pro video mode, and you can also turn on peaking as well as a histogram if you want to get into a little more technical video recording on the phone. Overall, the Mi 10i is a pretty impressive phone. We found the bezel quite interesting with its cardboard-like construction. Maybe Zach can put some knives to it and get us some real answers. And as far as some water resistance, some dust resistance, and Gorilla Glass 5, that is pretty impressive. MIUI is the only thing that is basically slowing down Xiaomi as far as the Mi 10i is concerned, and that too has been improved considerably. And they're heading in the right direction. Hopefully they get there soon. Hopefully they push out a software update that allows us to remove those apps that are unwanted, and then this will become a pretty impressive phone for a pretty impressive price. Of course, you do have the Moto G 5G and the OnePlus Nord. Those are 5G phones under 30,000 rupee price bracket. You can go look at our reviews for those. We'll have them linked in the description below, and you'll probably see them pop up in the bubble on the top right. This was our review. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the bell notification icon with all notifications turned on. This has been Rad Nagpal. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.